Hey everyone, thanks for being here. It's springtime and the Harley demo trucks are out and about making their weekend stops so that riders can check out the various 2024 Harley models. We're continuing on with our bike comparison videos from my test rides, a series I'm now calling the 2024 Versus series. You can view the full series here. I also invite you to subscribe and hit that like and notification buttons. If you like the video, I'd really appreciate that. For those of you who have been following the series, you might want to use the chapter links below to skip to the review. The next couple of minutes of intro are going to sound a little familiar. For those who haven't seen any of the comparison videos yet, there's something very important to be aware of if you choose to check out one of these demo weekends. When you're a rider with at least some level of experience, these rides can be a bit challenging depending on the riders in front of you. Some of them can be quite new and are still afraid of the bikes or a little unsure of themselves, which can slow things down. I think one of my pet peeves is people who slow way down on the corners so that they don't have to lean the bike very much. Part of the challenge, I know, is that you're riding different styles of bikes. Some have mid controls, some have forward controls, some have floorboards, some have foot pegs. A couple of them have heel-toe shifters. On some, the clutch engages right away. On others, it's almost all the way out before it engages. So it really can be challenging to go from bike to bike. Each one has a different feel to it. But still, if you're not going to lean your bike going around a corner, in my opinion, go ride a trike. Let's talk about the bikes that are available to ride this year on the demo weekends. We have the Nicer Special, the Sportster S, the Pan America Special, and the CVO Pan America, the Street Bob, the Fat Boy, the Lowrider S and Lowrider ST, the Breakout, the Heritage Classic, Road King Special, Street Glide, Road Glide, CVO Street Glide, CVO Road Glide ST, Road Glide Limited, Ultra Limited, and the Road Glide 3 trike. Here in PA, if you ride a trike, you have to have a special license for that. So that one was actually set aside in case anyone came in who wanted to do that. The bikes that are not in the lineup are the Nightster Standard, Softail Standard, CVO Road Glide, since they have the CVO Road Glide ST in there, the Freewheeler and Tri-Glide Ultra trikes, and of course the Hydra Glide, which is this year's icon bike. The only two bikes I did not ride were the Pan America Special and the CVO Pan America, because Short Legs McShorty Pants here, with his 29-inch inseam, did not feel like dealing with the 31-inch seat height on those bikes. I know the seat height's lower when you're coming to a stop and when you're at a stop, and then they kick back up when you're riding. I know all that, but even at their lowest, I think the lowest is 30.5 inches, and I would rather get some more experience riding bikes with a taller seat height before I go to ride one of those in particular. I have no idea when that's going to happen. Today we're talking about the Breakout versus the Fat Boy. These bikes sit next to each other in Harley's Softail Cruiser lineup. Last year during the test rides, I rode the Fat Boy, but due to time constraints, I did not ride the Breakout. Since the specs on the two bikes are similar, I made a judgment call on what I thought riding the Breakout would be like. I'm here to say that I was very wrong on that judgment call. This bike is not at all what I expected. Let's talk through the specs on the bikes first. Both of these bikes come from the factory with no windshield. Both come fully chromed out with no blacked out option at this point in time. Both have a longer wheelbase than the typical Harley cruisers. Both have 5-gallon tanks and a nice, low, easy to ride seat height. Both have wide, low handlebars. Both have really wide rear tires that are 240 millimeters wide. That is about 9.5 inches. Both have a 4.5-inch ground clearance. The Fat Boy has the 114 engine with 119 foot-pounds of torque and 94 horsepower. The Breakout has the 117 engine with 123 foot-pounds of torque and 101 horsepower. Despite the smaller engine, the Fat Boy actually weighs a little more at 699 pounds versus the Breakout's 683 pounds. The rake angle on the Fat Boy is 30 degrees, giving it a wheelbase of 65.6 inches, and the Breakout has a 34 degree rake, giving it a 66.7 degree wheelbase. What's interesting to me is that these bikes are the same length overall. Both are listed as being 93.3 inches long, but the Breakout has a longer wheelbase, even with the bigger front wheel, which is 21 inches versus the Fat Boy's 18-inch front wheel. I would have thought that the longer wheelbase and the bigger front wheel would have meant that it would have had a much longer overall length, but apparently not. I guess this is due to the thinner front tire on the front wheel. Maybe the body's a little bit shorter somewhere, I'm not sure. The gauge on the Fat Boy sits on the tank, same as the Heritage Classic. The Breakout's gauge sits on the handlebars. The Fat Boy has floorboards that sit in the typical position, kind of between mid and forward controls. The Breakout has foot pegs that sit in a stretched full forward position. The Fat Boy is priced at $22,000 MSRP, the Breakout at $22,500, so only $500 difference between the two. Let's talk about the riding experience on these bikes. Last year after riding the Fat Boy, I made the statement that the fat rear tire on these bikes makes it very difficult to lean in the corners, and handling overall is much more difficult than the other bikes. For the Fat Boy, that hasn't changed. This bike will fight you if you try to take a corner aggressively. It does not like leaning at all. When I was counter steering this bike on a corner, I could physically feel the bars trying to straighten out so that the bike could pull back up to an upright position. This year confirmed that for me, the riding experience on the Fat Boy is not all that enjoyable if you really like to lean into the corners. But where I was wrong is on the Breakout. Because of the wide rear tire, I expected the Breakout experience to be the same, but this bike doesn't ride anything like the Fat Boy at all. Even with the big back tire, I had no issue leaning into the curves. In fact, with the low 4.5 ground clearance, I scraped the pegs a couple of times. I think the difference is because of the difference in the front tires. The Fat Boy has that 18-inch front wheel with typical thickness. Breakout has a 21-inch front wheel with thinner tires. My guess is that the longer wheelbase also has something to do with making the Breakout easier to lean with that wide back tire. The low handlebars and the stretched forward foot controls on the Breakout does give it a bit of a clamshell feel to the bike that does take some getting used to. I'm not too sure how much I enjoyed that part of it. So to sum up, the Breakout wins when it comes to engine power, handling, and maneuverability. The Breakout weighs less, which means the power to weight ratio is going to be even better. The Breakout has a slightly lower seat height. For me personally, it also wins with having the gauge on the handlebars instead of on the tank. The Fat Boy wins with a more relaxed riding position and a slightly lower price of $500 less. So it really depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for the relaxed riding position of the Fat Boy? You don't really care about the challenges of leaning into the corners, or do you want that more aggressive feel and the better handling of the Breakout? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you on the next one.